Good day, folks. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Feiyu Pocket. This is a mini handheld camera with mechanical stabilization. It can also be considered a hybrid because it does use electronic image stabilization as well. And it might look a little bit familiar here. As you can see here, it's identical to the DJI Osmo Pocket. However, it does have quite a few new features and enhancements that the Osmo Pocket just doesn't have. Is it any better than the Osmo Pocket? We're going to take a look at that here in this video. We're going to start out with an unboxing to see what all comes inside the package. Then we're going to do some test footage and then do some comparisons against the Osmo Pocket. So let's just jump right in and take a closer look. So we'll go ahead here and we'll get it opened up. Sometimes they make it really tricky to get into these boxes. Well, there we go. So it looks like here we have some information about the product, quick start guide. We have a case. And that's identical to the DJI one. You can see here is the DJI one, and there's the FeiyuTech one. They're pretty well identical. We'll open that up. You can see here we have a wrist strap, and we have a USB-C cable. So let's take a look at the camera here. I think that's all that's in that package. We have a screen protector there to remove, and there's one on the lens there. Now, first impressions here holding it in my hand. It has a nice build quality to it. Doesn't feel cheap by any means. You can see here we have a record button, we have a mode button, we have a power button there on the side. On the other side here we have the USB-C port, and we have a memory card slot. And one thing I am noticing right away is that it has a quarter 20 built into the bottom. So that's fantastic. You don't have to use any other kind of hardware mounted onto it to be able to mount this on an extension pole or mount it anywhere. So that's actually really nice. And from what I've read, I have to look into it a little bit further. But you can see here this back plate comes off. There's two screws. I'm not even sure what kind of screws those are. But I think you can actually replace the battery in this. You can pull that cover off and there's a battery in there that can be replaced. Now that's not something you would do out in the field. It's more if the battery over time gets weak, you can replace it to revive it. So if that is true, that is a nice feature as well. I'm not 100% sure on that yet. Like I said, I got to do a bit more research into that. But all in all, the build quality feels really good. Let's see if there's any charge in this. We'll power it on. Let's go English. And there we go. Now, it was just a matter of time before people started copying the design of the DJI Osmo Pocket. Usually when a new category like that enters the market, it's not long before other manufacturers try to catch up and copy it. Even if you take a look at GoPros, they were the original action camera on the market, but it wasn't long before many other manufacturers started copying, including DJI. So it's just the nature of it, and there's a couple different ones on the market now. I do believe Feiyu has one called the Feiyu Palm, and Snopa has one called the VMate. But today we're just going to be taking a look at the FeiyuTech one. Now, there are a lot of improvements and enhancements with the FeiyuTech Pocket that the DJI Osmo Action just doesn't have. For example, wireless is built right into it, so you don't need to purchase an additional module to get wireless capabilities. And it's nice how they did do the wireless. Wireless isn't on all the time, so you're not going to be draining your battery when you don't need it. To enable wireless, all you do is press and hold the shutter button. And you can see there it will enable wireless mode, and you can then connect it to the FeiyuTech app. And again, to shut it off, you just long press on the record button, and it will power off the wireless. So that's definitely a handy little feature. Another nice feature is they actually have a quarter 20 built into the bottom. You don't have to use any third-party mounts to be able to mount it on any kind of GoPro mount or any kind of mount with a quarter 20. So that's definitely a nice feature as well. Now, another nice feature is that it has a field of view of 120 degrees, and that's compared to 80 degrees on the Osmo Pocket. And that's probably one complaint that a lot of people had with the Osmo Pocket, is that the field of view was very narrow. So it was very hard to vlog with without having your arm reached out at a very uncomfortable position. Now, the bitrate on this is supposed to be 120 megabits per second compared to 100 megabits per second on the Osmo Pocket. Now, I have not been able to achieve that, and we'll get a little bit more into that into detail as we go along here. With the Feiyu Pocket, you can actually set the video to superfine even when shooting in 4K, unlike the Osmo Pocket, which can only be done in lower resolutions. I'm in 4K right now, and I have the option to do high quality or super high quality. Now, lastly, another nice feature that they've added in here is that you can actually move the gimbal with your smartphone just by moving it. It's kind of similar how DJI has that set up with Ronin SC. You can control the gimbal remotely just by moving your phone around. So that's an interesting feature as well, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute when we're looking at the app. So it definitely does have some nice enhancements over the Osmo Pocket. The build quality is actually really nice. I was actually quite impressed when I took it out of the box. It feels like a nice quality product. The menu system is almost identical to the DJI one. Now, when I do these types of reviews, I try to remain as fair as possible and keep an open mind. I enjoy DJI products, but I enjoy products from many other companies as well. So I don't let that really play a factor into it when I'm trying to review a product. I think this could be a great little camera, but unfortunately I think it was released a little bit too soon. Seems to be a trend now that manufacturers are releasing products before the firmware is really ready to go. And I think this camera, like I said, I think this camera has a lot of potential, but it does need a lot of firmware work. Now there's three main problems that I have with this camera in its current state. And again, hopefully that will change over the coming months when they release firmware updates. Basically they're to do with the bitrate and the quality of video. The color science when in auto I think is a little off, and the stabilization definitely needs some work. Now I'm actually a fan of FeiyuTech products. I've used plenty of their gimbals in the past, action camera gimbals that is. I've never really tried any of their higher end professional line for like larger cameras such as mirrorless and DSLR, but their action camera gimbals were always top notch. I was always big fan of them. So we'll talk about stabilization first, and I'm actually quite surprised for the length of time that FeiyuTech has been in the stabilization market that they don't quite have it nailed down yet. Obviously we've got some mechanical stabilization, but there's supposed to be some electronic image stabilization as well. For the most part, the Osmo Pocket does a much better job. I'm going to show you this clip here of me just walking along a beach. Nothing fancy, I wasn't even really putting it to the test that much, but you can see here it kind of jerks around a bit. You know, it seems like it's overcompensating, especially when you're moving from side to side. It kind of jerks. I've shot a lot of content with this camera, and I've tried it in different modes. I've tried it in different sensitivities, and pretty well the same results for every mode. And while we're looking at this clip here too, you can see the other problem that I have with it, and that's that it seems to have like a brownish reddish tone to it. And that's like that in all the videos. I'm not really pleased with their color science and the way they have it set up. I'm pretty sure that can be adjusted with some firmware updates. And definitely if you're good, you can go in and do your own color correcting and fix that up as well. But to me, shooting in auto, you shouldn't have to really go in and color correct it just to make it look decent. A lot of people don't want to do that. You know, you just want to shoot some content, share it to Facebook, share it to Instagram, whatever you're going to do with it. You don't want to have to go in and spend a couple hours color correcting all the footage. The other problem I have too, if you're looking at that clip, is the quality. Now let's play some of that clip back again, and I want you to pay attention to the quality, to the sharpness. If you look at the stones on the ground, everything seems to be just a little bit soft. There's no really sharp definition. The bitrate on this is supposed to be 120 megabits, but I have yet to achieve that. When shooting in 30 frames per second, the max bitrate I can get on it is 80. When I shoot in 4K 60, I can get it up to 90. Definitely far from the 120 that they're claiming. And definitely you'll see that more when we do some side-by-side comparisons with the Osmo Pocket. So those are the three main problems that I have with it. The bitrate needs some work. They need to get it up to the 120 like they're claiming, and hopefully that will fix the clarity. The color tones definitely need to be adjusted to get rid of that kind of reddish hue, and the stabilization, again, does need some work. So I'm going to do a couple side-by-side comparisons here of the Osmo Pocket and the Feiyu Pocket, and we'll go ahead and play that now. Again, you're going to notice with the Feiyu Pocket, it kind of jerks around a little bit. In general, it does a fairly decent job. You know, I'm not walking any particular way here. I'm just walking through this trail like I would normally walk, and it just seems that the Osmo Pocket does a better job, and it's more subtle when it's changing angles. Now here's another stabilization comparison. Here I'm going to play it widescreen so you can get a better feel of it. Again, you can see the Osmo Pocket just kind of seems to make it a little bit smoother and not so jittery. So let's go ahead and take a look at the app for it. It's called Feiyu VCam. You can see right away it's wanting to connect to the Feiyu Pocket. So again, like I said, we just have to hold down the power button and it'll put it into Wi-Fi mode. And because I've already connected it once, all we have to do is hit connect to VCam, ask us to join the network. So there we go there, we're all connected. You can see here it shows us all our media. If we want to control it, we just hit camera live there at the top, and it's going to establish a connection. And you can see here you can use the app in both portrait and in landscape. So the app is not as robust as the DJI Mimo app, but it does work well. Everything is laid out and it's easy to use. You can see here we can control the gimbal just by sliding around that virtual joystick. And this button up here is that somatic control. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. But basically when we click on that, you can see here how we can control the gimbal just by moving our phone. So that's kind of neat and definitely would come in handy in some situations. Now, speaking of that control, this here is the XS Max, the iPhone XS Max, and I have no problem using it with this phone. However, when I connect it to my iPhone 11 Pro Max, I can't use the virtual joystick, and I can't use that option where you move the phone and it will move the gimbal. I've tried numerous different things to get it to work. I've uninstalled the app, reinstalled it, but I just can't get it to work on my iPhone 11. So I'm not quite sure if that's a bug that needs to be worked out yet. So generally the app works well. I don't really have any complaints with it. It's a little bit simpler, like I said, than the DJI app, but sometimes that's not a bad thing. These apps can get really bloated sometimes with all kinds of features that you never really use, but the Feiyu Pocket app is actually pretty easy to navigate and easy to figure out. So all in all, I think this camera has great potential. It definitely needs some work. I think FeiyuTech put it out maybe a little bit sooner than what it should have been. I think they needed to do some more testing with it and definitely work on the firmware before releasing it. And once they do get some of those problems fixed, I think it's going to be a great little camera for the price. Well, folks, that is my review of the Feiyu Pocket. I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.